He had skill and technical ability that were just out of the ordinary.
He would produce one or two pieces of skill that would just make everybody kind of go.
I think all lovers of football, and not just Real Madrid fans, enjoyed that goal.
Unfortunately, that incident will remain as the last thing everyone saw Zinedine Zidane do on a football pitch.
Zinedine Zidane was born and brought up here in the underprivileged Marseille suburb of La Castellane, which is home to mostly first and second generation immigrants. He's the son of Algerian parents of Kabyle origin who emigrated to France in the 1950s. Hence his middle name, Yazid, by which his close friends and family still call him today.
At school during break times it was football. Nothing else was in his head but football. He played so much. When he finished school and went home, he'd throw his satchel down in the house and go out to this square and play football. All the time with his friends. All the time. That's all he did. Play with the ball.
Although he left here to join AS Cannes as a teenager, he's never forgotten his roots. Today he funds the local football team, La Nouvelle Vague, and is the club's honorary president. Without Zidane, these youngsters wouldn't have a team to play for.
He helps us financially and gives us a lot of support. He buys all sorts, balls, shirts, etc. And he's helped by his brother Farid. And with him, he's responsible for everything at the club.
He joined the French side AS Cannes after being spotted by their scout, the late Jean Varot, the man who Zidane regards as the biggest influence on his career. He made his first team debut aged just 17, and those who played with him at the time remember his exceptional raw talent.
At 18, he wasn't the great Zidane. No. He was already gifted technically, but he wasn't strong physically. But technically, he was superb. He had sublime skill, a superb touch, and all the moves. On a technical level, he was much more advanced than the rest of the team.
The French city of Bordeaux is better known for its fine wines than its football team. And that was his next destination in his rise to the top. There, Zizou didn't fully mature into the superstar he eventually became, but his quality in a better side shone through. Although he failed to help the club win any silverware during his career there, he was voted Ligue 1's best player in '96. As technical coach, Pierrot Labat played a major part in Zidane's development at Bordeaux. Zizou is the biggest success of Labat's long coaching career, which includes Zidane's former Bordeaux teammates Christophe Dugarry and Vicente Lizarazu, who also formed part of France's World Cup winning team in 1998. Labat recalls his first impressions of Zidane back in 1993.
Because he was a player who appeared introvert. In fact, he doubted himself. I attempted to instill confidence into him. It was one of the first time in fact, that I applied psychology in order to provide him with the self-belief that allowed him to produce his full potential.
Zidane was outstanding during his time at Bordeaux. It became inevitable that he'd move on to bigger things.
I was really convinced that he was going to get where he did. It wasn't possible for me to think any other way. He had everything: technique, mental strength. He was level-headed. and possessed the ability to question things in order to improve.
In 1996, he joined the Italian giants Juventus. Serie A was considered the world's best league back then, and the Frenchman took time to adapt to its rigours.
When he went to Juve, it wasn't easy for him. It was a difficult first 6 months. The owner, Agnelli, didn't have a great deal of belief in him, and neither did his teammates. And he played a withdrawn role in the team, as a defensive midfielder.
Once he was played in a more attacking role, Zidane developed into a truly world-class player. He inspired the old lady to consecutive Serie A titles in 1997 and 98. He proved the judgment of France's greatest player before him, a former Juventus legend himself, to be spot on.
Michel Platini gave an interview to the Italian press in November '96 and said, "You're going to eat your words. Zidane is a playmaker. Take another look, believe in him and watch him change." And he did change at Juve, when everyone eventually put faith in him.
Immediately after that second Scudetto, Zidane represented his country at the World Cup for the first time. France was the host nation, and the last time they held a major tournament, they won it. Platini inspiring them to the title at the 1984 European Championship. Les Bleus began impressively, winning all 3 of their opening group games. But in the second of those, Zidane displayed the first signs of his suspect temperament when he was sent off for stamping on Saudi Arabia's Fawad Amin. He was handed a 2-match ban. A huge blow to his country's hopes.
The French team was an impregnable fortress. They relied on the individual talents of Zidane and Djorkaeff to score the goals. At that time, only 1 goal was necessary for France to win, because they never conceded any.
He had skill and technical ability that were just out of the ordinary. When it came to control, and especially leading the team, he managed to see and analyse situations quicker than anyone else on the field. Thanks to that, and the fact that he was surrounded by a team that was very strong, he made the difference.
In their semi-final, France faced surprise package Croatia, competing in their first World Cup finals. The Croats took the lead before an unlikely hero emerged for Les Bleus. Thuram scored twice to take France to the final, just as well since Zidane hadn't been at his best.
His only big game, his standout match, was the final. But that's what separates a good player from a very good player. It's like dreaming about the perfect holiday and actually going there.
It was the first time France had reached the final of a World Cup. They faced record 4-time champions and favourites Brazil in Paris' Stade de France.
Once or twice in your career, you need that meeting of talent with delivery. And that makes then the recognition, yes, this guy is exceptional.
Cue Zinedine Zidane.
That is then the marriage of art with mental strength. And Zidane delivered on 98 in the final.
Another rare Zidane header made it 2-0 just before half-time. Proof that practice does make perfect.
He had the touch of a genius, but he always told me, "I'm not good with my head." I used to tell him, "Stop annoying me with your insecurities." I made him work on his heading.
France eventually won 3-0.
He gave a meaning to the way France played. Take the team, despite all the goals in 1998, it was mainly defensive. Zidane gave it balance. Without him, it was a team that lacked panache, lacked a positive image.
The nation celebrated like never before.
For us, the French, it was something extraordinary. Nobody had ever seen anything like it since liberation after the Second World War. Nobody had ever seen so many people in the street like that. What's more, we'd never seen the people virtually as one, together.
2 years later at the European Championship, hosted jointly by Belgium and Holland, Zidane spearheaded France's attempt to become only the second country after West Germany to hold the World Cup and European Championships simultaneously. This free kick helped France defeat neighbours Spain 2-1 in the quarter-finals.
It was as if in '98 France had reached the top of the mountain, and then they stayed there until 2000. And Zidane made all that happen. It was as though the French team still had a few metres left to climb to the top, but Zidane climbed those few metres for them, and his teammates followed.
France needed their mountaineering expertise again when Nuno Gomes gave Portugal the lead in their semi-final. But the World Cup holders fought back. Thierry Henry equalised early in the second half. No further goals meant extra time, and France were awarded a penalty in the dying minutes. Zidane scored what was a golden goal. France were on the brink of conquering Europe for the first time since 1984.
He was the leader just like Platini was in the 80s. Zidane was the leader of his generation. He was inspirational because he became the best player in the world. He was irreplaceable.
Rotterdam's De Kuip Stadium hosted the final against Italy. When France won this tournament 16 years earlier, Michel Platini was their inspiration. Zidane had become his modern-day counterpart. But things weren't going to plan for Zizou and France when Italy took a second-half lead. Then, deep in injury time, Sylvain Wiltord scored a dramatic equaliser. That took the game into extra time. Towards the end of the first period, Robert Pires broke down the left. David Trezeguet may have been the hero, scoring a golden goal winner to give France the title, but Zidane's Player of the Tournament award was fully deserved.
For me, Euro 2000 will always be Zidane's peak. In 2000, he was the leader of the national team, one of the best players in the world, and he handled the pressure. He scored important goals and took the team to new heights. For me, that remains the most beautiful summer of Zidane's career.
However, at club level, his demons were still in evidence. In a Champions League game for Juventus at home to Hamburg, Zidane was sent off for his headbutt on Jochen Kienz. It was something we'd see repeated more famously on an even bigger stage 6 years later.
I think he did have an explosive temper, but then again, there was a lot of pride in those outbursts. That's something that made him a winner, but it's also something that cost him dearly as well. That headbutt against Hamburg cost him the Ballon d'Or in 2000, which he deserved that year, and Figo beat him to it because of that.
The following year, Zidane left Juventus to sign for the Spanish giants Real Madrid for a then world record fee of €76 million. He spearheaded President Florentino Perez's Galacticos policy, signing big-name players for big money to create a very marketable super team that would sweep all before it. Bizarrely, Zidane's career at the Bernabeu began at a meal table in Monaco.
Perez realised that he couldn't talk to Zidane directly. There was too many people there, it was impossible to get to him. So he took a napkin and he wrote, "Do you want to play for Real Madrid?" on it, folded the napkin up, and the napkin went round the table, got to Zidane. Zidane opened it, and in English, yes, the napkin went back.
And the Madrid chapter of his career began well as Real reached the final of the Champions League in his first season. In the final held in Glasgow, they faced the German side Bayer Leverkusen. Raúl gave the Spanish champions the lead, but Lucio soon equalised for the Germans.
I scored, but everyone will remember Zidane's great goal.
This was probably the pick of a career of highlights.
I think it was magnificent. And to have been there as a teammate, so close to him when he scored that goal. I think all lovers of the game, and not just Real Madrid fans, enjoyed that goal.
I think that when he really finally got accepted, it was like, well, we've spent £40 million or £50 million on this bloke, what? And then he scored that goal and everyone went, ah, that's why we bought him.
That triumph gave the club its 9th European Cup, and the Galacticos policy looked set to pay dividends. Perez's dream of combining the Galacticos with the club's leading academy products, a policy labelled Zidanes y Pavones after Zidane and the youth team graduate Francisco Pavón, was ultimately flawed.
The idea is the youth teams can be the players who understand what the club's about, they can feel what the club's about, they identify with it, and the stars make it glamorous and bring the fans in. Perfect combination, it would seem. There were a number of problems with it. The idea that it was a romantic image was slightly wrong. It was also an economic reality, that by having a Pavón, you can pay him very, very little compared to the Zidane. So you can balance out the fact that you've got to pay Zidane €11 million a year before tax by paying someone like Pavón only €250,000 a year. Now that is problematic because it creates a division within the dressing room.
Constant failure in the Champions League after that success in 2002 meant that the only other silverware the club won in Zidane's 5 seasons at the Bernabeu was the domestic title in 2003, a paltry return for the huge amounts of money invested. But nobody blames Zidane. Despite the failure of Madrid's superstars like Ronaldo, Figo and David Beckham to gel as a team, he was outstanding individually. Indeed, Zizou was named FIFA World Player of the Year again in 2003, 5 years after he first won the prestigious award while at Juventus.
Zizou was a delight for the world. When you had the ball, you gave it to him. And you knew something was going to happen, because I think he was so far ahead of other players. He saw everything so easily and did everything so easily.
As both world and European champions, France went into the 2002 World Cup as many people's favourites to retain their crown. But Zidane suffered a thigh injury in a friendly against Korea just 5 days before France's opening match against Senegal. That forced him to miss that match, which was also the tournament opener. Zidane tried to hide his disappointment, but the smile was soon to disappear. Papa Bouba Diop's first half goal gave the Africans a shock 1-0 win. Without their inspirational talisman, Les Bleus looked a shadow of their former selves. Zidane also missed their next game, a tame goalless draw with Uruguay, and French coach Roger Lemaire was forced to play an unfit Zidane in their final group game against Denmark, a match France had to win to stand any chance of progressing. With his thigh heavily bandaged, Zidane was far from his best, and France were a spent force. They lost 2-0 and went home in embarrassment, having failed to score in any of their 3 games and with the worst record of any previous World Cup winner. France weren't a one-man team, but far less of a force without their fully fit playmaker.
The French national team were World Cup holders and European champions, and had players at leading club sides. That meant their opponents faced them with something of a fear factor. Zidane contributed a lot in that respect. He was someone who provided so much to, and did so much for, the French national team.
And with the aura of invincibility surrounding France a thing of the past, the European Championship in Portugal 2 years later provided the chance for Les Bleus to silence their critics, and with Zizou back to full fitness, their campaign began well. Their captain scored twice in injury time against England in the opening game to give his country a 2-1 win. With Zidane seemingly back to his best, many were tipping France to retain their crown. And facing unfancied Greece in the quarter-finals strengthened that claim. But Aguilos Haristeas' second-half strike for the eventual surprise champions was the only goal, and France were out. After the tournament, Zizou retired from international football, aged 32. France's lack of a replacement saw Zidane reverse that decision just over a year later. But he announced that the 2006 World Cup in Germany would mark his retirement from all forms of the game. He captained his country, scoring this outstanding solo effort in a 3-1 win over Spain in the last 16. And his penalty was the only goal of France's semi-final against Portugal. Berlin's Olympic Stadium was the venue for the final against Italy, and Zidane had the chance to give France the lead from the penalty spot. It was a chance he took. But the perfect end to an outstanding career never happened.
I felt angry. I saw it as behaviour that was detrimental to the team, that damaged our chances, and which suggested that his last game was more important than the World Cup final for France.
Marco Materazzi, who'd equalised for Italy to take the game into extra time, was writhing in agony on the pitch.
He left us more than disappointed. He left us as battered as Materazzi.
To everyone's astonishment, television replays showed Zidane had headbutted Materazzi in the chest. It was also seen by the fourth official, who informed the Argentine referee Horacio Elizondo. He had no option but to show Zidane the red card.
10 seconds after his headbutt on Materazzi, the whole of France said, "What an idiot. Why did he do that? You can't do that in the final of the World Cup. You can't take the law into your own hands in a final like that." He not only hurt the team, it was like he'd kicked his teammates.
Later, it was revealed that Materazzi had insulted Zidane's sister, and France, without their captain, went on to lose the final on penalties.
The following day, everyone forgave Zidane. What he'd achieved in his career overshadowed the mistake he made, which was, as he admitted, a mistake.
They say all geniuses are flawed, and Zidane certainly fits into that category.
Zidane was football's answer to the Bolshoi ballet, and I think that's absolutely true. Zidane was elegance above all else.
His skill, control and vision made playing the game look easy.
We can see why he was number one, not only for what he did during matches, but also for what he did in training sessions. I remember seeing him in training, and I said, that's just incredible.
He was one of a rare breed, a player who fans pay to watch.
Zidane has an exceptional coordination, an exceptional touch of the ball, and every area 3 yards around Zidane, you could give him the ball where you want it. He puts it down and plays.
Shy and introvert off the pitch, on it, he let his feet do all the talking.
There was no chance of truly finding a way of stopping him. There was no secret against Zidane.
Merci beaucoup for the memories, Zizou.